Hello. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tom and I'm here with yet another video playthrough lesson of a song from the Rockschool and Trinity books. And this song, I've already done the first part to this song, so I'm not going to talk for too long. This is a song called Alive by Pearl Jam. And if you haven't seen the first part and you want to know how to do the whole of this song, go check out the other video. I'll link it somewhere or do something. Or just search it. It should be there somewhere. But this is the second half of that song. Because this is the solo. And that video was already like 20 minutes long. So I wanted to kind of do a separate one on this bit. If you wanted to just focus in on this solo. So, as always, like, subscribe, comment down below. Go check out my Ko-fi. I'm not going to talk about tone or anything like that because I already did that in the last bit. We're just going to jump straight into it. I've got my guitar on clean for this so you can hear me nice and clearly. But obviously for this you want distortion on. And yeah, and it even says at the very start of this, continue distortion. And you can add wah as optional. And a bit of wah sounds kind of cool. It can be kind of fun. And I wish I'd done that. Like, if you watch my video through, I don't like my solo. I just don't. I'm really tempted to re-record it, but I know I can't. I've knackered up my wrist. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have the time. It was fine. It would have been fine. Let's get into it. So you want your distortion on, a bit of wah. It sounds kind of cool. If you've got an auto wah, you could actually use a bit of auto wah if you want to. Or if you've got an actual wah pedal, just to chuck a bit in there, it's kind of fun. But let's work through this. Now, there's two parts to this video. This first part is going to be going through those 4 bars, 39, 40, 41, and 42, as they're written in mine. And then the second part of this is going to talk a little bit about what you do to improvise around this and how you can kind of come up with your own solo for the second half. Because if you look at the very beginning, first time it says as written, second time continue solo, ad lib, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we're doing. We're going to learn their solo, and then we're going to do our own solo to go along with it. Okay, shut up. Let's just get into it. Right, bar 39. So straight away, we're going into 12th position. So I want my first finger to go on the 12 on the high E string. Now, with this, yeah, all the notes are kind of the same length at the start part. And I'm using my little finger to play that 15. You don't have to. I just find it easier to get to that 14 on the G. So we go 12, 15, 12. Now notice that 14, it's a full bend. I talked about this in the other video. A full bend basically means we're going to take that 14 up till it sounds like a 16. If it was a half bend, we'd be bending up to a 15. But we're going to bend it till it sounds like a 16. There-ish. Okay? And we're going to pull off onto the 12. So when you're doing that string bend on 14, have your first finger ready on that 12 on the G string so you can pull straight off onto that. Now when it comes to string bends, I've never really talked about this, so I will talk about it very briefly, is the technique wise, I get a lot of people getting this wrong. So when you do string bends, they put their thumb on the back of the neck, which is what you do for the majority of the stuff you play, and then they try and push the strings up like this. And the problem with that is when you do that, number one, it's harder. But once you get up a bit higher, and I almost hit that point where I wanted it to sound like a 16, and then it just disappeared. Because you're putting all your pressure on pushing the string up this way, rather than putting any pressure on down onto the fretboard. So what I tend to do when I do string bends, and this is not necessarily the perfect way to do it, this is just the way I do it, is I bring my thumb up to the top, and I kind of anchor my thumb on the top like that. So when you're doing a string bend, it's almost like you're doing this action with your thumb and your finger. So that way you can keep some more pressure coming down onto the fretboard that way, rather than this way, push it up. So we've got pressure coming down from our fingers, and then we're using our thumb to help push down while our fingers pull up at the same time. Like that. String bends are really tough. This is something that takes a long time to master, but just keep practicing it. Just keep putting them in. Whenever you write a solo, or whenever you're playing and mucking around, just chuck them in every now and again, and just that practice will come in. Okay, so we're gonna do that string bend, pull off to the 12 behind it, and then land on the 14 on the D string. So we got Those last 8 notes, the 12, 14, 12, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, all semiquavers or 16th notes, they're all the same speed. But just those middle 3, the 12, 14, and 12, you're gonna, don't pick each one. Do as a hammer on and a pull off for 12, 14, 12. Then we get into bar 40, and we're gonna go back to that 14. It's the same bend, 14 to still, it sounds like a 16, but they're all quavers or 8th notes. And then again, we're pulling off to the 12, back to the 14, then back to the 12. And that 12 just says to give it some vibrato. Put vibrato all over the place, anywhere you can, because it just sounds nice. And on the end, a 14 and a 12. Now, it's bar 41 where I have a feeling people are struggling, because we've got, in the second beat, we're actually going to demi-semi-quavers or 30-second notes, which is a monster. It's horrible. It's really hard. There is no secret to this section, right? There's no secret to getting this right other than learning it slow and building it up. And there's people, you're going to be watching, I was like, yeah, but how do I do it? That is how you do it. There is no secret. There is no kind of like, oh, if you just do this, it's going to make your life easier. No, stop trying to make your life easy. Practice. Learn it slow. Use a metronome. I use Guitar Pro, so I have this written up on Guitar Pro. And I had to do this when I learned this. I didn't just, and you watch my video, I still didn't quite get it right. I kind of fumbled through it a little bit. Just about managed to make it work. I put it up on Guitar Pro and slowed it down and just played it over and over and over again to build up the speed. And then I went a little bit faster, little bit faster, little bit faster. That is my main tip for you. If you're looking for a cheat, there is none. Stop being lazy, get on with it, do the work. The second thing I'll say is relax. Whenever you've got a part where you're trying to go fast, the temptation then is to kind of, and you kind of pick harder and you're pressing down harder and everything. And it's the worst thing you could do. If you want to go fast, you need to soften everything up and loosen everything up. You want your fingers to float over the strings. So every now and again, you just have to stop and check yourself and go, right, why aren't I doing this? Why am I all of a sudden getting worse? Hang on a minute. I just need to relax. Just relax. Just slow down and relax. Right. So we're going to learn this slow. The first six notes, yeah, 6 notes are fine because they're all semiquavers, 16th notes. Okay. Now with this first 3, it's a bit awkward. I bent this 14, so I've got my third finger on the 14, using my middle finger to help me anchor that or push that up. Remember, thumb's coming on the top. And then I just use my first finger to play the 12 and the 12. And you can kind of roll it back. But because then you can come back to the 12 on the B string for that first beat. Now this 15, I use my little finger to do this bend. You can use your third. It's up to you. I just prefer to stay in one position. So we got. Okay? And that's the first 6 notes. Now here are those 4 notes that are going to catch everyone out because they're just quick. And it seems easy when you're doing it at this speed. But there they are. So we've got the 15, I use my little finger, pull off to the 12, 14, 12. Right? Then we hit this 14 here. And this is the weird part. This note is a semiquaver, or a 16th note, but it's a dotted 16th note. So it's slightly longer than the first 6 notes. Now, then you pull off to the 12 and then back to the 14. I think I wouldn't pick these. I'd kind of just hammer on back to the 14. And then we go 12, 14, 12, right? On the end. But the key here is timing. So let's play this slowly and get the timing right. So we're going to go 1, E, and 2, E, and I can count and play it. It's funny. Let's do it again. There you go. And that is how you need to do it, right? The way I've just done it there. Learn that pattern. Just learn it. Just do it over and over again. Once you've done it once, do it again. And do it again and again, but keep it slow, keep it slow, keep it slow. Do it to a metronome and get that pattern. You just want to get to a point where your fingers just do that automatically. Then take that metronome up a little bit. Don't go much faster. It's like, oh, I've got it now. I'm going to go really fast. No, because you haven't built up the strength to play that quick enough. So if we're going, what speed of the song? 75, right? So you start at like 30 or 35, do it over and over until it's comfortable, then go 40, then 45, 50. If it starts getting hard, then go up even smaller amounts, 52, 53, 54, 50. Do what you need to do, but take your time to get that speed up and the strength up. And then before you know it, you'll do it automatically. Now, I did this in a day, so I didn't give it enough time. I probably could have done it a little bit better, but there we go. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. So we're now at 10 minutes. Sugar. Right, bar 42. Same thing. These are all semiquavers. Until we hit that 12, which is a crotchet or a quarter note. And it's got a quarter bend. When you see a quarter bend, it's basically, it's not a big bend. It's just giving it a bit of a, one of those. Does that make sense? Right, so then we've done that all the way through. So then we repeat it. Now, you then need to create your own solo here. And I've never done this in a video, and I'm going to try my best. So the first thing to say is, if you look at the notes that we've used there, you can see actually from what they're doing here, they've kept it to the pentatonic scale, which is when I did my solo, I was like, well, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. This is grade 5, and I think that would be acceptable as long as you can do enough with it. But you might just want to explore a little bit around that if you can. Maybe chuck in the odd extra note here and there. You can, right? So when you're approaching this, the way I would do it is put the backing track on, do the backing track without the guitar in it, and repeat that end section round. Now the nice thing is, it does it twice through. Don't do once you've learned that first part of the solo, that's fine. Use that end bit where it will repeat round twice and just play. Just play. And if you're really unconfident with this, just start by playing the E minor pentatonic scale, which is what this is. So we go 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15 if you like. We can add that extra note on there. So just put the backing track on and just do that in time. And go backwards as well. And then when you get the hang of that and you're starting to feel comfortable and you're really confident with those notes, maybe just add in the odd little moment where you change direction. Then you're going to start adding in longer notes, quicker notes, over the top of the backing track. I'm not going to play the backing track because it'll get me demonetized, so I can't do it. Then what you're going to do, once you've got the hang of that and you're just like starting to get comfortable, you're then starting to listen out to what you want it to do. So we might want to just not just follow the scale in order. Maybe we start by going, and then jumping down there or something like that. Now you're playing around with moving your hand to different parts of the pentatonic scale. Then you can start looking at where you want things to fall. So you might end up, you just keep playing it over and over again. And every now and again, you'll come up with something and you'll be like, oh, that was fun. What did I just do? Pause it. Something like that. Like, that was really cool, right? I'm going to try and remember that and like maybe record yourself playing it and keep that as like a little mental note. Right, I've got that for later. The other thing you want to do though is chuck in some techniques. So this is grade 5. We can't stick to just that pentatonic shape. So we're going to chuck in a few other things. So in my solo, I decided I was going to start with what's now been called a boomer bend. Maybe I'm a boomer. So it's a really fun thing to do though, and it sounds really cool. So I'll put my first finger on this 12 on the high E string, and put my third finger on the 15 on the B string. And you're going to play both. And after you played it, use these two fingers to bend that 15 until it sounds like the 12 on the E string. And with distortion, it sounds even better, I think. And the reason it sounds nice is because it sounds wrong and you resolve it up to its root note. There. Which I think is kind of cool. Just something I threw in there. Fine string bends. The 14 on the G string is a really nice place to bend because you're hitting a blues note, or you're hitting the next note in the scale actually, but that is just a nice note to bend. So no matter what you're doing, if you come up with like a little cool little, just chucking one of those in there is really nice. And then and if you can, then don't always have to do this, by the way. A nice way to think of it, especially when you're starting out, is you want to finish on a root note. So if we're in E, our root notes are the first note you play, obviously, the same note on the high E string, obviously, and then the 14 on the D. There are D notes. So if you can kind of finish on a D, it kind of rounds up a section. And write this as sections like that. So you can have like, right. Don't necessarily write out the whole solo. Have an idea. So, right, so the way I did it was I'm going to start with this. So like the first bar. There you go, my first bar was done. And then I did like a little run up the top there, which was something like that. Ending on this note here because I wanted to. But I also chucked in a blues note there, by the way. So if you know your blues scale, you're going to add in a couple of notes here. So we've got 12, 15, 12, 13, 14. So adding this 13 in between. And then on the G string, you go 12, 14, and then add the 15 in here, which is that same note. And that's what I did. Like there, which is quite nice. Other things you can do. Another really nice way to kind of complement your solo is kind of sliding in and sliding out. So when you've done a little section, if you're kind of like, I like this, sliding off it, just doing that just kind of adds a little something to it. Then we can explore outside of the pentatonic. So once you've got some ideas, what other things can we do? So we've added in that blues note. We could try doing some notes behind it. So rather than just sticking to this one shape, maybe we could come here. If you go 10, 12, 10, 12 on those first two strings, they're the same notes that fit into the pentatonic, but you're just doing it in a different position. It'll then allow you to do some slides. So we could try this, for example, 10, 12, 10, 12, slide to 14, and then you're now in your normal position. So rather than just going, we're now going, which just sounds better. If you do it right, I didn't do that right. Just other ideas you can chuck in there. Hammer-ons, also good. So rather than just going, maybe, sounds a bit better. Stuff like that. A nice little run I like to use all the time. And you got a slide. If you slide on that B string from 14 to 16 as well, that can sound quite nice. There's no rules to this, right? I can't sit here and say, here is your solo, because that is not the point. The whole point of this is for you to experiment. And if you just follow everyone else's solos all the time, which is a good thing to do, by the way, is to look at someone else's solo and learn that. It will give you ideas that you can then steal, but it doesn't mean you just constantly do the same thing by following everyone else. Steal people's ideas. This is why I'm just throwing things out there, because I'm just like, try this, or you could try this, or you could try this. But now what you need to do is go away and try it. You've got to sit down. Like, there's no point sitting and just going, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to figure out what that person did. And that's why I'm not showing you exactly what to do, because I'm just throwing ideas out there, right? Another thing you can do with it is go on YouTube and just search up E minor backing track and just stick an E minor backing track on. So we're in the key of E minor and just play around with that pentatonic solo. Find notes that fit outside of that pentatonic solo. So I like to do, on my little intro I always do at the start of each video. It's actually from the Dorian mode or something. I'm no good with modes, don't even get me started. But it just is a little note I like to chuck in there every now and again. This note here, which is actually G string 12 sliding down to 11, which is in the full minor scale. So it's not that obscure, but it can sound really nice. Just kind of chucking in little things here and there, kind of make your solo like pop out. Make it a bit different from everyone else's. Yes, stick to the pentatonic, especially for grade 5, you're fine. Stick to the pentatonic. But it's at this point you should start trying to look outside of that a little bit, finding little things and little ways to make your solo sound more interesting. And I don't think I'm going to say any more on it than that. I hope I've helped. I hope I've given you just a few little ideas. Don't just copy everyone else. We're going to say, definitely don't copy mine. My solo, I tried to keep it really simple. I was going to mainly keep it pentatonic. Don't do anything ridiculous. And I watched it back and I was just like, no, I don't love that actually. If I had more time, I would re-record it and come up with something even better, but I don't. So I'm not going to because I can't be bothered. I hope that helps. Plus, I'm knacking my wrist. I don't know what I've done to my wrist, but I'm going to have to figure that out. Anyway, I'm going to leave that with you. I hope it helps, and I'll catch you on the next one. Remember, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, And yeah, peace.